Hello, Hayley here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Awakening Collective podcast. I am so grateful that you are joining me and happy to have you here wherever you are in the world, whatever you are up to today, where we are talking about 5 signs that your priestess codes are already being activated, that you are already the 5 signs that you can look at to go, okay, am I being called to this priestess path? And if you are here, it's more than likely that this is one of the signs. And if you're not 100% sure about the priestess codes, the priestess path, you can go back to last week's episode where I talk about the 7 keys of the priestess path and who's been bringing those codes forward to me. For where my business has been going and what direction my business is changing to. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, that will help you a lot in what I'm starting to understand more about the priestess path and what's going on with that. So I know that when we start talking about priestess path and sisterhood and ritual and all that kind of thing, that some people can go, okay, this is a little bit culty. It feels a little bit weird, but the priestess path and these sisterhoods are very ancient. And if we go back to Goddess Isis, I mean, even with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, they came together in circle to learn. Goddess Isis brought forward her teachings into a priestesshood where everybody practiced and became familiar with their gifts, their healing gifts, their psychic gifts, and really harness that divine feminine energy onto the planet. And that's what this is about. This is about harnessing in divine feminine energy. We've been very imbalanced. And again, I'm not talking about matriarchy and patriarchy. I'm talking about the balance of divine feminine and divine masculine energy. So bringing divine feminine into the planet, healing those core wounds in the womb space. This is what the priestess path is about. It's igniting all of the intuition, surrender, flow, nurturing, bringing all of that in and harnessing it into the earth. So that's what the priestess codes, the priestess path is about. And yeah, it can start sounding, if you're a little bit newer to this, it can feel a little bit culty, a little bit too woo-woo. You're probably just getting used to the fact that you have intuition and that you want to use that intuition, and then all of a sudden you're being called to go one step even further. And it can be a lot, right? It can be a lot. And it's not just about sitting in meditation. Spirituality isn't just all about isn't just about meditating and healing. There's a lot of other things that come in this too. And the priestess path is about how you are showing up when we're completely embodying divine feminine energy. It's about how we're bringing that into everyday life. We are living here as human beings. And I think I brought this up in either last week's podcast or the week before. We need to stop separating spirituality and humanness and understand that we are spiritual human beings. And so it's about bringing this into everyday life so that we can live that soul-aligned purpose, that soul-aligned life, activate our highest blueprint, live from joy and abundance. That's what this is part of, right? Bringing in these priestess codes and activating this divine feminine. It's about a way of being. It's about being devoted every day to showing up in these energies. So how are you showing up for yourself? How are you showing up every day for your body? How you're showing up for your family, your community, in your work? That's what the priestess codes and these keys that are being brought forward to me, that's what they are helping us to do. Just using these in our everyday life to live the life that we want to for ourselves, and bring those beautiful codes to humanity as well, and that collective. So let's get into these 5 signs. Like I said, one of them is, if you're listening to this and going, I think this is for me, sign number 1 right there. Excuse me. But let's go into number 1. So number 1 is that you are really drawn to ancient culture. If you are really starting to be drawn towards, or have been maybe your entire life, like I was obsessed with Egypt growing up, still am. And my daughter's started saying to me in the last couple of months, she's like, I really want to learn about Cleopatra. Can we find a documentary on Cleopatra? She wants to learn all about that kind of thing. And we're hopefully going to go, we are going to go, I should be saying, to Egypt for my 50th, her and I, in a few years' time. So that'll be super interesting, but she's already really excited about that. So that draw to ancient culture, especially Egypt, if you're looking and finding things about Lemuria, about Mu, Atlantis, if these words are activating you and stirring something in you and you're being called to learn more about them, that is one sign that you are being activated onto this path, because it's a remembrance. Priestesshood is a remembrance of codes, of ways of being from these ancient cultures that we've already lived and already been a part of, especially when we're going all the way back to Mu in Lemuria, where we were very balanced in divine masculine and divine feminine. We were very all over it. We were very at one, understanding of the oneness of the cosmos and us and the earth. Like, it was very we were very in line with all of that, very connected in bringing all of that in. This is why you're attracted to this, because you have those codes from those times that you are now remembering, activating within yourself, and bringing through into the earth, bringing through into humanity. So if you are very drawn to those things, that's one sign. And all you need to keep doing with this is keep learning, read books, watch videos on YouTube, listen to podcast episodes about these places, do a meditation, where they maybe take you to a Lemurian temple, or when you go do a past life regression to Atlantis. Do be careful though, because Atlantis was when a lot of the distortion started happening with these the more nefarious beings. And so, there is also a lot of trauma starting to come out. That's where we first really start experiencing a lot of that on Earth. So just going back and learning more about Egypt, learning more about hieroglyphics, or doing a meditation, like I said, where you go into a temple and sit and allow these codes to come in. So that's one way that you can really start expanding more on that. So number 2 is that you're interested in goddesses. You're being really drawn to learn more about goddess Isis, about Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, all of these masters, these goddesses and priestesses that have come before us that were very in their power, very devoted, very aligned with who they were and what they were bringing to the table. I mean, Isis, she had her mystery school. She was one who brought together in those ancient Egyptian times, who activated a lot of all the priestesses. Any of these goddesses, I mean, even, Kuan Yin and Athena and all of these guys, if you are at all interested and drawn to any of these, maybe you love your goddess cards, maybe you've got oracle cards that are, that have all the goddesses in there that you're really drawn to. So start playing with those if that's something you have. Start reading books there's so many books on Mary Magdalene's story, Mother Mary's story, and the suppression of that, which really opens up to understanding more about the suppression of the divine feminine, the suppression of women, and why that is, why the womb space is so important. So, reading books on that, again, podcasts, YouTube videos, where you're just expanding your awareness and learning more about that. Again, meditation with Mary Magdalene, meditation with Isis, Kuan Yin, all of these guys, so that you can start opening up and, again, harnessing in more remembrance around these beautiful people who you were probably in service with. You would have been in the temple in a lifetime with Goddess Isis, learning from her, learning her teachings, expanding your intuition, bringing all of those codes in. So, it'd be beautiful to go back and do that again. And that will really open you up and start expanding that consciousness for you. So the third sign is that you have that really big, deep feeling that there is something more for you, that there is this little part of you inside screaming to get out, going, I am more than just this. And I'm not saying that, in a way of being ungrateful for the life that you have and that you should be richer and more famous and more successful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that there is something deep within you that knows that you have more to offer, that you have more to give, that there is more inside of you that isn't being expressed or used. And this is when those gifts come in. This is when it's that remembrance of healing, that remembrance of that embodiment of divine feminine, that we have more to offer and more to give, more voice inside us, that there's more speaking to be done. So yeah, that real feeling that there is more of a soul aligned purpose for you, or that there is a different way of you showing up in the work that you're already doing. Because I think when we think of stepping into this kind of thing and talking about soul aligned purpose and helping humanity, I think there's this preconceived idea that then you have to be a healer, as in a Reiki master, somebody who helps heal, by sound bowls or light language or, however it is. But you can be in soul aligned purpose, bringing forward these codes, bringing forward divine feminine energy as a kinder teacher or even a university professor, or whether you're in finance. You can bring all of this stuff through in those spaces, and we need it in all spaces. It's not just about stepping forward and being a healer in the, I suppose, traditional sense. You don't have to be a naturopath or like I said, some form of a Reiki master or whatever. We can bring that through in everything. So if you're feeling that deep connection, that there's a more soul aligned purpose for you, a different way to start bringing things forward, and that there's this piece inside of you that goes, I have more to give, I have more to share, I have more to speak on, then that's because you're being urged to start bringing in the remembrance and activating those priestess codes a little bit more. But this is really about stepping out. This is a little bit of healing, I think, because we've been suppressed for so long. And I'm not just talking about women. This isn't a whole thing of, full on feminism. Just as human beings in general, we've been very suppressed as to what we're actually capable of. And there's a lot of implanted records, and Atlantis being one of them, that it was our fault that Atlantis fell. And so a lot of you who were there have this profound sense of, I can't step into these gifts because I hurt people and things go wrong. And so healing some of that and maybe looking into some of that, starting to heal those wounds around the suppression of your divine feminine womb space in this lifetime and other lifetimes, so that you feel free to start actually speaking your voice and stepping into your gifts, whatever they may be. So I think a little bit of healing is necessary around. I mean, we do need to be doing our healing, but it's not all there is. But I think in this particular part, a lot of the reason that we're not doing this is because of that suppression, because we're holding on to those limiting beliefs and past life trauma and this life trauma that are stopping us from actually speaking out. So yeah, that is number 3. Number 4, we're starting to be really drawn towards more cosmic and quantum ideas. So, maybe you've been in this for a little bit and you're kind of just getting used to the idea about intuition and connecting to your guides, but now you're starting to step out a little bit more cosmically, really wanting to understand source and connection to source and what God is, and the deep connection to the earth as well comes into that. Like I was saying before, that alignment between the cosmos and us as humans and the earth, like really starting to line that up. And maybe you're sort of hearing things around, like grid work and templating and all of this kind of thing. And you're going, oh, there's something in that for me, but it feels a bit much. Learning little bits around that is going to really start expanding you. And, I'm not a scientific person. I'm a creative person, and I hear all these things about the quantum field and templates and all these different grids, and it can get a little bit overwhelming. And I think you need to find your balance. So if you're super scientific and you love that stuff, you can go so deep into quantum mechanics and the quantum field and plasma fields and all of this stuff. Or if you're like me, and you're like, okay, like that's a bit much and my head just doesn't do that. It's about sitting. What I've found for me is just sitting in my meditation or sitting in stillness, or when I'm out in the forest, just being really aware and really taking everything in and noticing grids and noticing energetic ley lines. We can do it in a more simplistic form that's better for us if we're not feeling like we're ready to sort of grasp the entire thing. And so there are ways to look at that. I mean, and you can do, I was walking around the forest this morning, and this is something new again that's coming in for me. I was walking through the forest and I just stopped and I felt this cross section of energetic lines in the forest, and I just started pouring beautiful energy into that because I felt like I needed to stop and do that. And you can feel your way into those grids, feel your way into different templating and different what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, that, you know, if you're in circle and there's those different, I can't remember the word. That's going to really annoy me. But anyway, just sort of like the fields of energy, and you can feel your way into that without having to get super deep into science. But yeah, so that's number 4, that you're getting really interested about that deeper connection to nature, the quantum, the cosmic. And yeah, and if, like I said, if you're super scientific, you can go nuts on it. And if you're not, don't let it intimidate you, or don't let it yourself get overwhelmed, because there are simplistic ways to feel into that. There's more creative ways to feel into it in your knowing rather than with knowledge. So yeah, there's a few different ways that you can go into that. And like, you know, with connecting to your starseed family, connecting into cosmic beings, galactic beings, into more of that, you know, you can do again through meditation, through reading, through podcasts, all of the things to open that up. And the last one, number 5, is sisterhood. And I've kind of lumped in together womb clearing and sisterhood because I think it's all very entwined. I should have just made it 6 different things, but sisterhood is really important. If you're being called to get into sisterhood, to find communities, circles where we are all coming together, if you're sick to death of, you know, being around people who are negative and are really stuck in that sisterhood wounding, like, I get it. You were probably one of those people who in school had more friends who were boys and friends who were girls because you didn't like that environment. And so being called into sisterhood with priestess beings, with women who are in a space where they are doing their work, they are doing their healing, they are supportive and nurturing and are willing to hold space for you without opinion, all of that kind of thing, then that's another one. And then, like I said, that's a womb wounding. That's the sisterhood wound, which comes entwined with the witch wound, which we're clearing from that womb space. So that all kind of ties together. But, you know, find somewhere to go. Find either an online community, find, you know, if there's a circle in your area that comes up, whether it's a meditation circle, whether it's going to yoga, whether it's going to a knitting club, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be spiritual, you know. It might be, maybe you enjoy playing tennis and you go back to doing some friendly tennis games, or, like I said, join a yoga group, or somewhere where you're coming together with like-minded people who you can have a little bit of a laugh with. Or you can do a womb wounding circle. You can do a circle where people, do come together to meditate and go into that space and to work on that and bring those priestess codes through that way. So there's your 5 signs. So being drawn to ancient culture, being interested in the goddesses, feeling like there's a deeper sense of purpose for you and like there's this little part of you that's just screaming to get out, wanting to learn more about cosmic connections and the quantum, and finding that deeper connection into the planet and to the earth, and really feeling the need to gather in sisterhood and clear that womb wounding, because this is all about divine feminine energy. Like I said at the beginning, the priestess codes, the priestess path is all about embodying that surrender, flow, intuition, your psychic gifts, manifestation and creation. And it's about us. I mean, it was all taken, like I said, go back to last week's podcast, but, you know, the divine feminine's been suppressed right from the beginning with Christ Sophia. We're missing that divine feminine half of God. God's become very masculine. And we're bringing back that Sophia energy. We're bringing back that divine feminine to harness it in, not just to us, to help us in our life and the way that we show up, but so that we can also anchor that stream of consciousness, that beautiful divine feminine energy into humanity. So, anywho, on that note, Have an amazing week. If you're interested in activating your priestess codes, learning more about these 7 keys, stepping onto the priestess path, coming into sisterhood, I will put the wait list below for the sacred priestess initiation. The doors are opening on the 14th of August. This is the first round of this program, so there are a limited number of spaces. It's like a founding members round. So yeah, there are a limited number of spaces, and I'm going to be releasing it to the wait list first before anybody else. And if it fills up, then I won't be, reaching out to even my normal subscriber list or, the Facebooks or anywhere. So yeah, so if you would like to get in on that, you can join that wait list below. And I will see you next week. Bye.